Welcome to Reclaim the Pink Within. I'm your host, Dr. Christelle Oliver Dussault, and this is your space to pause, breathe, and return to yourself. One story, one insight, one conversation at a time. Let's begin. Welcome back to Reclaim the Pink Within. On today's podcast, I have Amelie joining me all the way from the border of France and Germany, so many miles away and a good few hours ahead of the west coast of Canada. She is a mom of two girls, aged 4 and 6. She has a background in marketing, communications, event management. She wears many hats. And before I go any further, I just want to take some time to thank you, Amelie, to making some time to speak to me today out of your very busy schedule. I'm sure your story will inspire many women listening today. So, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah,
Before
I'm
we
very happy to be here.
Great. So as we begin most of my episodes, I'd like to learn a little bit more about the Amelie before motherhood. So if you were to describe who you were before motherhood became part of your identity, how would you describe yourself to others?
I think I grew up an only child, and I was always a little bit introverted, I would say. So I was a bookworm, going to the library and coming home with lots of books to read over the weekend. And I also always was interested in things like philosophy and culture, music, literature, and thinking, liking to go and see concerts or lectures or discussion evenings, this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also obviously friends, but still I was always interested in culture. And actually, when I was little, I always had the dream to have like a cultural center where things would take place and I could invite
Mm-hmm.
other people to share kind of ideas and inspirations, this kind of thing.
Oh,
And I
wonderful.
also always have loved languages. I've loved traveling. So when I was 16 was the first time I went to Mexico for 3 months and learned Spanish. And I've spent a year in the US, been traveling a lot. So I think this has been a large part of my identity, different cultures, different countries as well.
Mm-hmm. And how did that change when you became a mom?
Well, I just realized that I have a lot less time for myself than what I used to. So a lot of quiet time and also the time to explore my passions. That was a lot less when I became a mom,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, because the kids were keeping me up late at night and through the
Mm-hmm.
night. And I was just, more at home than before and not able so much to explore what I was passionate about anymore. I mean, it was replaced obviously by wonderful other
Mm-hmm.
things, and I really do enjoy being a mom. I've always wanted to be one, and I
Mm-hmm.
became a mom quite late. Actually, I was 37, I think, when my first child was born, so that was quite late. It gave me a lot of time before, but still, I didn't realize how much it would impact me not having this possibility to follow my interests anymore so much.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that introverts by nature, and I would tend towards that spectrum as well, enjoy their time alone and their time with their thoughts? How do you find the early years of motherhood impacted that?
Yeah, I mean, I was always kind of a mixture between wanting to be alone and enjoying company. And
Hmm.
just, it took a lot of energy from me not being able to set the boundaries as clearly anymore
Hmm.
as I did before. When before I could just say, okay, now I will go to my room and spend some time
Yeah.
alone, and the baby just wouldn't let me. So they wanted to
Yeah.
drink, they were crying, and it just there wasn't the possibility to have these borders, or like the limits established very
Hmm.
clearly. So that made it
Yeah.
difficult for me.
Hmm. You
And
mentioned that
since
you always wanted to be a mother. What did you
Mhm.
imagine motherhood would be like?
Well, I was looking forward to the very close bond that I would want to have with my children, and just yeah, being able to, what I always also thought is they would enable me to live in the moment, and it does, you know, so it kind of, it
Mhm.
anchors me to the present. And I love that about my kids, is that when I'm with them, I don't, I don't know, I don't think about the future. I have no time to
Mhm.
worry about other things. It's just about, I want
Yeah.
to play this now and do this now and do this
Yeah.
now. And so that is actually good for me, and for, you know,
Mhm.
because I am often in my head and thinking about stuff. It is good for me, but still at the same time, yeah, it can be challenging. And I do find it very nice to spend time with my kids, and, you know, looking forward to having these shared experiences with my family, travel with my family.
Mhm.
But the 24/7 aspect of it, I wasn't prepared for that. So
Yeah. I don't think anyone is. I don't think any amount of advice you can get from friends or family can really prepare you for it, and unless and until you're in it. Um,
Mhm.
what would you say becoming a mother shifted in you in terms of, say, identity, relationships to others, and your ambitions?
It kind of extended my identity, I would say. So it kind of, it did feel in a way a little bit more complete, because I'd always been yearning for
Mhm.
it, and I
Mhm.
thought it would be part of my identity someday. And I was, you know, in my early 30s, I was really sad because I didn't know if it would still happen or not.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
looking very much forward to it. So I would say that my identity, it became more present and more appreciative also of what I have. Before, I sometimes, although, you know, I had all this time to myself, I also felt lonely sometimes before, and I
Mhm.
was, you know, looking forward to having a family. I was like a close knitted community kind of thing around
Mhm.
me. So this is something that gave me a lot of security and a lot of,
Mhm.
you know, positive, you know, feelings towards life in general.
Mhm.
But still also, it made it more apparent how important it is to do something for yourself as well, and to, you
Yeah.
know, to look as to who am I if I'm not a mom, and not in that moment with my
Mhm.
kids, who do I want to be, and
Mhm.
what is important to me in life. And that
Mhm.
became more apparent by having it taken away basically, and then having to really think about what is it that's important to me.
Mhm. And what impact did motherhood have on your ambitions? Or did it shift the way you view ambition?
For one thing, it gave me the opportunity to, well, at first, I mean, we are very lucky here where I live in Germany, to say that when you have kids here, you get to have up to 3 years that you can stay at home, and your job that you
Mhm.
had before is still guaranteed. You can come back to it after.
Mhm.
So in the first moment, it gave me the option to not work for a while. I stayed at home for,
Mhm.
I think, 16 months with each of my children
Wow.
after they were born. And you even get, you know, from the state, you get paid during this time. So it's kind of like a
Mhm.
maternity leave where you are, but
Mhm.
very much extended compared to what you guys get in the US. So
Yeah.
I know that we are very fortunate in that regard.
Mhm.
So at first, it meant for me, you know, just pausing my ambition, focusing completely
Mhm.
on raising the kids. But then it also showed me that my career is important to me, and that it's important part of my life. And I'm personally, and I respect
Mhm.
everybody who does it, but I'm personally not made for staying at home
Mhm.
completely, and not being a
I can relate
stay-at-home
to that.
mom is not my thing entirely. And so for my ambition, it meant to say, yes, I do still want to work, but I need to find a way to combine it with my life, how it is right now with the kids.
Mhm.
And so when I went back to work, I actually went back part-time. So right now I work in the full-time job that I still have. I work 25 hours. So it's
Okay.
kind of like, yeah, it's not, a little bit more than 50%. Usually in
Yeah.
Germany, we have a 40-hour week.
Mhm.
So it's very good. And at the
Mhm.
same time, it also showed me, I mean, I enjoy the job that I have right now, but I also felt like, from a creative perspective, I wanted to do more. And this is
Mhm.
why, you know, about a year ago, I've started becoming an entrepreneur on the side. So basically
Mhm.
setting up something that is my passion project as well, because
Mhm.
I did feel that, yeah, for my daughters and for all the children, I kind of like, I wanted to do something for myself. I want to show them that it's important to follow your passions and not only
Yeah.
maybe in a corporation, but also to do something that kind of leaves a lasting impression for them, and showing them, what their mom is about when they look at it in a few years, and how, it is possible.
Yeah.
Even so, now I have 2 kids. I have a job in a corporation, and I still on the side have my own business. So I'm a busy woman these days.
You are a very busy woman. And I think sometimes motherhood does that. It highlights gaps or areas that you weren't aware were unmet needs,
Mm,
and it can give you a little bit more clarity in that respect. And that's suppose how we met each other virtually, because
yeah.
you're kind of on the border of France and Germany. I'm all the way in the west coast of Canada, and we both ended up doing a business course by Tracy Matthews, who's based in the United States, called The Art of Reinvention. And I was so intrigued by the project that you're building, probably because it has a similar lens to my own project of trying to connect with mothers and see the different facets of who we are as individuals, mothers, women. I will circle back to that program we did in a few minutes, but before I go into that, I wanted to ask you, have you ever felt, or do you feel nowadays, any pressures from either society, industry, or within yourself to be a certain kind of mother or professional?
I think I'm mostly, I mean, yes, obviously, to some extent, feeling pressure from the outside is more. mm I don't know. I mean, of course, I grew up a certain way, and I have a family that kind of looks at things a certain way.
Mhm.
I think I've actually broken some of the patterns that were established in my family. So, I mean, me and my
Mhm.
mom, we have our issues in in some regards, so to say. I mean, we are very similar. I grew up in a happy childhood. I don't want to neglect that
Mhm.
or negate it,
Mhm.
but still, for me, there were some things that I wanted to do differently, and I'm trying
Mhm.
to, uh, very consciously raise my kids in some areas in a different way that what I
Mhm.
experienced. So I think, yeah, this is has been a pressure I've put myself under, kind of to make
Mhm.
sure that in those areas where I was maybe not 100% happy with how I grew up, to do it
Mhm.
differently. And that's more like a pressure I think that I'm putting on myself with
Yeah.
regards to society. I mean, we are, yeah, so also my partner, we are trying not to focus too much on what others think about us, but
Mhm.
it's easier for him than it is for me. I'm still on a learning path here, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's one that is very hard to escape as
Hmm.
moms. And I think
Hmm.
you really hit the nail on the head when you talked about how when you become a mom, it really makes you reflect on your own childhood, how you were mothered, and how you then want to
Hmm.
mother yourself, whether that's the exact same way, the completely different way, or a hybrid. You kind of pick what you felt was
Yeah.
right and try new things that maybe didn't feel as aligned when you were a child. And it's very much an
Hmm.
ongoing learning curve that I feel never
Yes.
ends or probably will never end. But
Yes. I think so.
you
Yes.
mentioned that you had the opportunity to go back to your corporate job on a part-time basis. How did you find juggling that corporate work and motherhood in those early years, particularly like after your first when you went back?
Mm, I mean, it is challenging when you are kind of split between wanting to be there for your baby and knowing that you have to leave it in the care of somebody else, and then having a job at the same time. But I was, to be honest, quite happy to go back because I
Mhm.
had missed it during my absence.
Mhm.
And when I was, because purely stayed at home those 16 months, and I was happy to be able to talk to adults again and to
Mhm.
kind of, for me, my work is also always something I love and I enjoy, and that's
Mhm.
something that gives me joy. And coming back to that actually was quite nice.
Mm,
I
lovely.
mean,
That's
that
good that
sounds
you
maybe
had.
weird, but it's
No,
still,
like
I felt torn, but yeah.
everyone's different. And I think it was lovely that you had that opportunity to do the 25 hours. I think sometimes if
Yes.
you don't have that time without the financial strain and you have to go back earlier, that can make things more difficult. And it's different
Hmm.
for everyone. There's no right or wrong way. I kind of want to jump into that art of reinvention program now because it was very transformative for me. I'm curious to see or find out what brought you to that program or how you came across it. What drew you to Tracy's program?
So I had felt for a while that I'm kind of restless in on the inside, that I do enjoy my work, but I felt that something is missing for me personally, and I want to explore more my own passions. And I was listening a lot to podcasts. I get a lot of
Mhm,
inspiration from podcasts. I love it.
mhm.
And I
Love
was
it.
listening to an interview actually that Tracy did on another podcast. I stumbled
Mhm,
across it, and from Kathy Heller. I don't know if you know her. So Tracy gave an interview on one of her podcasts, and somehow I don't know. I had looked for support or for a similar a mentor here in Germany, but for
mhm,
some reason nobody came along, or I didn't find anybody that I clicked with. And I heard this
mhm,
interview that Tracy gave, and somehow I thought, yes, I mean, for the way she talked about reinvention and about evolving into something, I mean, from where you are at right now, but somehow it appealed to me. And also
mhm,
the thing is, I knew that I had to do this in the evening, always when my kids, and they go to bed at 8 o'clock
mhm,
here. And then,
mhm.
so I have 2 to 3 hours in the evening for free exploration, so to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was very convenient for me actually that this was in the
Mhm.
US, and because you guys are
Yeah.
working, during your day. And for
Mhm,
me, that was the ideal time. And everything that I would have done here in Germany would have been during the day and almost
mhm,
impossible for me to attend to. And
mhm,
I just listened to Tracy, and for some reason, I trusted her. And I was very insecure at the time about whether I would find the courage in myself to explore this, and to
mhm,
actually become an entrepreneur, because I had been in the corporate world for so long. And for the longest time, I had said I could never imagine being, on my own. And I don't know
mhm,
if I'm good at it, if my idea has any merit. And I was looking for
mhm,
somebody who could kind of give me the reassurance or help guiding me towards
mhm,
more, being more, yeah, self-conscious and more just believing in myself actually, and
mhm.
being having the courage to go this step. I was just looking for somebody to hold my hand, and I listened to Tracy, and for some reason, and I had a first call with her, and she was so nice and so understanding and
Yeah,
so supportive, and that's what drew me to
she
her.
really is. Yeah. What shifted in you throughout her program? What were your pearls or take homes that helped you grow?
It was kind of, I did the exercises. There was exercises every week, kind of questions and questionnaires that you had to fill out, and it just got me thinking so much. She was just asking all of the questions that I don't know. She gave me the structure to think about this every week and to
Mhm,
continuously work on myself and to working up the courage to do it. And also, my surroundings are not very, as I have to say, in the beginning, were not very supportive of the idea. By now, they have come around to it, but in the beginning, yeah.
It's hard
And
to shift sideways sometimes when you have a not a wild or mad idea, but a different idea that might not be the typical path.
yes, and I don't know, there was no one around me in my direct surroundings that actually believed in this and in this
Mhm,
idea, and that I could do that. And so
mhm,
it gave me so much confidence and so much joy. And then also meeting all of the people in the program was amazing.
mhm,
There was very
mhm,
inspirational women, and not
mhm,
only Tracy, but also the other participants
mhm.
of the class. I think you had Stacy on the podcast as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
did.
she was
Yeah.
one of the course members, and somehow, I don't know, all these women that were walking in the same direction, it just gave me so much strength and the support to keep going and to just keep
Mhm,
walking. I can only work on it very little time, step by step each
mhm.
day, an hour, 2 hours, not even, and so it's a very slow progress, but just having the strength to keep going and not stopping, and just
Yeah,
it's like a marathon, and each day you
it
run
is.
a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Building that stamina. So
hmm
tell me a little bit about this business that you are building and what that looks like for you.
So I am building a platform, a space for mothers for where they can meet and connect in the evenings. So it's kind of the idea is to offer regularly, you would call it a virtual events, but I call it more of an experience. So I'm going to, or I am inviting hosts for some of the sessions. So we would, dive into a topic or an experience together.
Mhm.
There's different categories where I want to offer events. So some of them will be in the area of health, of a little bit mental health also, but
Mhm.
self development, everything about your health and how to, for example, as a mom, techniques for relaxation and for kind of calming your nerves, these kind of things, but also entertaining things like a game night, for
Mhm.
example, or a discussion group, a book club. I have many ideas for
Mhm.
people I can invite, and
Mhm.
what is important to me is that it is always live and that is always authentic and that it's real people meeting. Because actually,
Mhm.
there's something that Tracy's classes inspired in me because I
Mhm.
loved how everybody was able to show up and be present also in those classes. And she was able to create a room where everybody could just be themselves and just
Yeah.
contribute from where they were in their lives. And that was the first time I kind of experienced a really authentic connection through a virtual channel.
Mhm.
I feel very connected to some of the participants of this group, although I've never met any of them in person.
Mhm.
It's always been
Yeah.
only virtual.
Yeah.
But I still feel, I don't know, there was a space, and I got so inspired also to create something where people feel
Mhm.
like they are seen and heard.
Yeah, yeah. Because oftentimes you do put everyone ahead of you in motherhood, and it's not always, it can be difficult to meet like-minded people or people who want the same
Yes.
thing, or sometimes you just don't have the energy to get out in the evening. So having a space to do that and envision it from different facets, I think it's going to be a really wonderful opportunity for many women. Tell me a little bit more how you came up with the name.
It is actually twofold. So one is part is that it contains the names of both of my children, of my girls. So it's a mixture of both
Wonderful.
of their names.
Mhm.
But it's also so Lua. I mean, I told you a little bit that I have very much interest in other cultures, and Spanish,
Mhm.
for example, is one of the languages that is really close and dear to my heart, and the whole Latin American and also Spanish culture. And so
Mhm.
Lua is actually in Portuguese is the moon, and Mira
Mhm.
is kind of a name where it implies that it's looking at the moon, so kind of
Mhm.
mirar,
Mhm.
but
Almost
also
like stargazing.
yeah, it contains a little bit also of the word miracle. So it's supposed to evoke the evening atmosphere, thinking about the fact that the
Mhm.
events are taking place in the evening and that I want them to be a place where you could let your imagination run wild, so to say, and get inspiration
Mhm.
and kind of in this glow of the evening kind of atmosphere. So that's what the
Yeah,
name is standing for.
that's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, it draws you in. It made me very curious to find out the meaning behind it.
Hmm.
Mhm. What do you feel keeps you aligned nowadays, now that you've gone through the transformation of motherhood, the transformative course of the art of reinvention? What do you find keeps you grounded or true to yourself as you navigate all the different hats that you wear?
Mm. I'm still trying to find little windows where I can ground myself, for example,
Mhm.
by being outside in nature. That's something that still helps me a lot.
Mhm.
Sometimes I do a little bit of sports, things like Pilates and that kind of
Mhm.
doing something also to bring myself back into my body and not
Mhm.
from the mind perspective, but into the body. And
Mhm.
if I have those little windows of time where I can just be with myself and my thoughts, I usually feel
Mhm.
myself again for no
Yeah.
matter what happened during the day. So that really does
Mhm.
help me. And yeah, reminding gratitude is very important to me. Life is very precious.
It's beautiful. I often ask my guests to share a mantra, and I really like the one you shared with me today. You shared that for you, you follow the mantra that paths are created by walking them. What does that mean to you?
It means to me that I think it's very important for each and every one of us to follow our own path, even if it's not traditional, and not to expect to follow something just because other people have told you so, or why because you think this is the right way, but to
Uh-huh.
be with yourself always and feel into yourself what is the next step. And
Uh-huh.
you never know where this path is going to lead, so the only thing that you can do is set one foot in front of the
Mhm.
other and walk,
Yeah.
and think about when you come to a crossroads, kind of like, do I
Mhm.
walk right or do I walk left? But
Yeah.
I've always figured that I want to find my own path, and it's not my target to match anybody else's, or kind
Mhm.
of like I don't know, taking over other people on this road or
Mhm.
something. For me, it's finding for me the individual way of how life works for me, and even if it's not the easiest and not the most linear one, I feel like it's mine, and so that's why I love this
Mhm.
mantra. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really good advice. And you can even see how truly it speaks to you just the way you light up when you talk about it. Do you have any advice to share with any women who are either pregnant and expecting their first, or in those early years of motherhood, who are trying to navigate all the shifts that happen throughout the transition?
Yeah, I think to be honest with yourself about what you need and what it is where you're at. So if you feel that you're very tired, or you have the opportunity to ask for help, that you're not afraid to do so.
Mhm.
If it's your partner or other people surrounding you, friends, family, whatever. If you feel like it's all getting too much, that you kind of take this chance to ask other people for support, and that you're not too hard on yourself with the expectations that you maybe have. It's not always as easy. And for me, for example, breastfeeding was a really hard journey. And
Mhm.
I had the expectation that it would be very easy, that I would just, start and everything would go fine. And it took me a very long time to get into a good rhythm with my first child,
Mhm.
because I was very much in my head and, expecting everything to go really well. And so
Mhm.
if you put too much pressure on yourself, things can get very hard. And
Mhm.
just allowing for a different path, and maybe to see in combination, because you have another human with you, and this person comes as a little personality already onto this world.
Mhm.
And it's not something that you can 100% control, like maybe you were able to plan and control things before. And it's you have to allow for things to go differently than what you expected, and not be
Mhm.
hard on yourself if it's not what you had in your head.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is very, very wise. Is there anything else that you would like to share that maybe we didn't touch upon today?
Mm. No, I like your project. I've, seen it from afar and seen some of the interviews and so on, and I
Mhm.
think it's a really great cause, and we both want to help mothers, or maybe,
Mhm.
alleviate a little bit the daily what's happening. And I really enjoy that, or I think it's a great cause, and more women, and that's something I can encourage everybody to do. If you feel that you have a passion, don't be
Uh-huh.
afraid to follow this dream and to follow
Uh-huh.
this road, even though it seems maybe impossible in your life, and even
Yeah.
though you might feel that you have no time at all to do something. There's still always little windows of opportunity, and
Mhm.
you can just follow. If you have the courage to start walking,
Mhm.
things will unfold for you.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, in ways that you don't even realize, and that you can't envision. So
Right.
on that note, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your path. I will include the details of your new business in the show notes. So if anyone who's interested in Amelie's Lumira events, they will be in the show notes so you can have a look at them along with her details and how you might find her through social media. So thank you so much. And to everyone who's listening, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. The email is info@reclaimthepinkwithin, or you can send us a message through Instagram, the main social media platform that we use. Take care. Bye.
The information shared is for educational and general informational purposes only. Although I am a medical doctor, I am not providing medical, psychological, or professional advice specific to you or any individual. This podcast does not establish a physician-patient relationship, and the content should not be used as a substitute for personalized medical care, mental health support, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your own physician, mental health professional, or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you have regarding your health or well-being. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love for you to share it with another woman who might need it. And if you feel called, leave a rating or review. It helps grow this community. Remember, you are not lost, you are becoming. I'll see you next time on Reclaim the Pink Within.